Welcome to Valhalla Kustom. This is the car trailer. So we're looking to add right there something to hold the winch. The idea is we're going to have a receiver that comes in here and be able to connect it and remove it as necessary for a few different reasons. We don't want to leave it on the trailer. We don't leave it exposed for theft or for the weather. And sometimes we're just not going to need it. Sometimes there's going to be vehicles driving up. Sometimes we use this for materials, things like that. So just want to have a section for the receiver here. First thing you've got to do is just come up with an idea, a plan. So here is the plan, right? So we've got this idea. We've got the receiver coming in here, and we're going to make this bracket. So I'm going to kind of cut this out, trim this out, double check, and we can see this is sort of the idea that we've got. So we've got a couple basic measurements from here. So that's stage one. Then we go into making a more defined pattern. So part two, and then we double check. So we can see this one's got a nice radius here, and we're able to cut it, and that fits even better. And add a little flare. What that design is for is a place to be able to get the hitch pin in and out. And so we've got support across the back, support across the front. We're connecting to the top and the bottom. So we've got lots of points of connection. The next thing to do is take that design and make a template. So we've got a nice connection up there. Same thing, we come around, and this is very tight. We've got a lip that comes up there. So that was a test. So that's template version 1, and then flush that out a little bit more and come up with our second template here. Same thing. So this one's a little bit more refined again and has all of our dimensions, so we can take everything that we need off of that and be able to move forward from there. So everything looks good with this, so we're ready to go and turn this into a piece of steel, our bracket. From the template, we're going to make a cutting template because we've got access to a plasma cutter. So we're going to take 1/8 of an inch off for the plasma head and make this here. So we're going to make another one of these out of wood, and then we're going to be able to run the plasma cutter off it, and it'll be an exact size of this. So we have to just double check everything here. Everything comes in more or less, comes in about 1/8 of an inch. On the distance there. So it just changes this whole size, actually makes this whole diameter larger on this template to get it down to the smaller one that actually fits this top rung here. And there you have it, just like magic. Works out perfect. So this is the template, running the plasma across it. Got just the slightest bit hot, not a big deal. And this is what resulted after cleaned it up a little bit, cut off all the slag and everything. We did this out of plasma, so we wouldn't have to cut and grind and do all that to the 1/4 inch plate. But guess what? We're just gonna have to cut and grind to the 1/4 inch plate, because that's not great. From the final template, going to the bracket. Now, after everything's cut and pretty close, welded the pieces together to keep them together, and then do some finish grinding to get everything lined up so both brackets end up being identical. You can see that there's overlap here. Now, while they're still welded together, cut the center hole, which gives us room for the slide pin here. And we've got the little connection up here, the cutout, which this piece slides into right there. It's going to be welded up, and I don't know if you can see the hole, kind of a little bit in there, and that's how that's going to work. So as this is ground down and flushed, then these two pieces are going to separate on their own again. May have to trim this out a little bit, and we're deciding on kind of method of attachment here. Am I going to weld this together and then put it in as one unit, or weld in the side units themselves and then add this piece? And I think we're going to land on a combination of both. Going to go ahead and tack weld this piece onto here, and then look at slipping the whole unit in, and then start welding the brackets, and then do the finish welding on here. That way everything should stay square and have a good connection. But this loops up, so you have to kind of twist the bracket in, and that gives us a lot more penetration, but it makes it harder to put this unit in as a slide in. We really are only going to have a pulling force in this direction. We're not going to have a lot of torsional force. We will have some, which we can put wings on out here to help conquer that force. But we're not really going to have any sort of pushing force. So having this underneath probably is not necessary. We're going to have a lot of weld surface here and here, and on the pipe on top here. The only other thing that we might have is a little bit of tipping force. And by stretching out across the bar and across the bottom here, that should take care of that. We're probably going to add a plate on the top as well, and that will kind of box everything in, along with, this is really beefy, thick metal. Everything here is quarter, and this is 3/16. So it's probably a little bit overkill even for what we need, but it should be good. And now we got a set of brackets. So we've chamfered this inside edge a little bit right there, and that's going to be welded up against the receiver itself. And you can check the fit here. So we've got a nice fit, and they go in just like that. All right, got a pair, and the next thing to do is start welding these together. So here's the first portion together, and that's not too bad of a weld, if I do say so myself. Got them stacked, but got a nice penetration in there. And you can see on the bottom, just did a stitch weld and did a long continuous weld across the top here. Just didn't want any weather getting in there as well. Stitch weld probably would have been fine. I still was a little concerned about the heat, so did jump around, start the weld here, and then went back to here. Try to keep the warpage down, even though this is thick plate and thick stock here. You still have to concern about it. And there you have it. So that is putting the winch onto a tilt bed trailer. Everything worked great, worked just like I was hoping it would. There are some modifications that you want to do. I do want to push it over a little bit. I put it offset because you're going to be pulling from a frame rail most of the time. So I've got it set up on the driver's frame rail, so that way when you're sitting in the vehicle using the winch, you can see where you're headed and know when you're up tight. With the wagon that we loaded there, I don't know if you can see it or not, but that thing is real tail heavy. So it needed to pull forward a little bit more all the way to the tire bar, which meant that I had to remove the winch to get that on there. So that's not ideal. I would really like to keep that thing on while I've got a vehicle loaded. So what we're probably gonna do is change the mount entirely, mount it so the winch goes in front of the tire bar, may adjust the tire bar forward a little bit too. That thing is straight up right. It's kind of always in the way of the ratcheting straps. So I may cut that off and do that. This is gonna be stage 2. But for stage 1, it works perfectly. It does everything it needs to do. There's just a few minor inconveniences with it, I would say. And then there's a couple tips that I'll throw in at the end about hooking the whole thing up that'll make the whole thing a lot nicer. And if you want to do overkill, this is how you do it. So we've taken out all the knots with bark inclusion and filled those with dowels. Any of the knots that sort of opened up a little bit, we've packed with weather-tight glue and some of the shavings. We're also going to be taking off, this is really the only split, but we're going to be taking off any of the splits. Those are also areas that can degrade early. This will just make the life of the deck last a lot longer. It's a little bit overkill, but lumber's not cheap, and this takes time. You want to make all your work last as long as possible, so this is one way to do it. So we're sanding this down, and then we're going to put a protective stain on it. We're going to stain both sides and really get the ends. Even though the ends are encased in the trailer, that's still really where they're going to wick most of the moisture up. When buying the boards, there was some splits towards the ends, so we trimmed off both ends, so we got nice clean ends there, really get a nice tight grain on that. And like I said, we'll do a quick final sanding after we cut off all this. But you can see the new boards as opposed to the old ones, and then this is one of the ones that was really gone here, really towards the end of its life. Another bonus tip for you, if you have a winch similar to this, this is our new hookup for our power wire. So we can hook on a cable to that, or we can hook a jumper cables, the clamp there. And what this is a waterproof box. When we did maintenance on the trailer, went ahead and removed this was the surge control, put on a new surge control, saved the box. It's a nice waterproof box for that. But you can see what this manufacturer did is they have all the relays ganged up. So then this is hot every time you're charging here. You're trying to use this. That definitely could be dangerous. Obviously this is not going to be hot, but both of these are going to be hot. And you've got that flopping around if you've got this loose, if you're doing something like this where you've got a removable unit. And so this is just a nice safe way to keep everything sealed and everything safe and out of the way. I think what we're going to do here is probably put a cable on here, just a short little cable with a battery clamp, and then we can hook that to the battery clamp, and then we'll do the same thing with the negative side. And that should just take care of it. So it's a little extra tip for you on how to be safe. Thank you for watching Valhalla Custom. Come back for the next one.